Disturbing facts you didn't want to hear, part 2. Many doctors say that the most common last words they hear are, "I don't feel so good." Most laugh tracks you hear in TV shows were recorded in the 1950s, meaning that the people you hear laughing are probably dead. During the French Revolution, it was said that the guillotine had to be used multiple times to get the job done. The reason that planes shut off their lights right before they land is so that passengers' eyes can adjust to the dark just in case there's a crash. This is so if the power goes out during the crash landing, they can better find an escape route.
These are shocking and bone-chilling facts you won't believe, part 1. Up first, this is why you should always put your toilet seat down. When flushed, toilets expel small particles of water, urine, and feces, and at times, dangerous pathogens that are invisible to the naked eye. Next up, in a study done by the University of Leicester, it was predicted that it would only take 100 days for zombies to take over the planet if a zombie outbreak ever happened. And what's even crazier, the university also predicted that after 100 days, only 300 humans would remain alive and uninfected. So what do you think? Are you going to be one of the 300 people left alive? Or are you just going to be a zombie after 100 days? Next up, this is Titanic survivor Catherine Gilnay, who was only 16 years old when the Titanic sank. But as the Titanic was sinking, she didn't realize the seriousness of the ship's situation until she reached New York. She thought that leaving in lifeboats and being picked up on another ship was all part of the journey. This is actually crazy, especially when everybody around you is screaming and drowning. So I have no idea how she didn't realize it was a real situation. And not only that, one of the most horrific events in human history.
This is how rare your body is compared to the rest of the world. Only 10% of the population have what is known as Morton's toe, making you extremely rare if you have this. This is where your second toe is longer than your big toe. What's even more rare is only 5% of people's tongues are tied. This is literally where your tongue is tied to the bottom of your mouth, impacting eating and speech. Only 1% of people have unbreakable bones. And if you have this, you are literally considered a superhuman. It's a mutation that makes your bones several times denser than the average human, which means someone with this mutation could walk away from a fucking car crash completely fine. Only 10% of the population suffer from eczema. Most get it when they're a child. It's bullshit! Whereas others can get it further down the line. 50% of the population can fit their fists in their mouth. That's still pretty rare. If anyone can actually do this, please let me know. Can you tickle yourself? If so, then congratulations, you're a part of the rare 7% of the population who can actually do this. And finally, only 16% of people can make a roaring noise in their head, flexing a muscle in their jaw. Damn. Elon!
This is the 18-year-old hacker who managed to use nothing but an Amazon Fire Stick, a hotel TV, and a phone to leak clips from the new Grand Theft Auto. Arian Kurtaj from Oxford is part of Lapsus, a notorious international cybercrime gang thought to be made up of mostly teenagers that's hacked into big companies like Uber, costing them millions. When Arian, who has autism, hacked into Rockstar Games' services, he was already on bail for hacking into other major companies and living under police protection in a travel lodge. But despite having his laptop confiscated, he still managed to hack into one of the biggest games companies in the world with just an Amazon Fire Stick, a TV, and a phone. He stole 90 clips and messaged Rockstar's internal messaging system, telling them they had 24 hours to get in touch with him before he'd release the game's sort code, which he did with the clips, and he was rearrested. His defense argued that the GTA trailer was still a success and that his hack hadn't caused serious harm, but the judge said that Lapsus had caused real harm to real victims from his other hacks, and that Arian's skills and desire to commit cybercrime meant he was still a high risk to the public, and has now sentenced Arian to live in a secure hospital for life, and he can only come out of hospital if doctors say he's no longer a danger.
Disturbing facts that will ruin your life. The average person walks past 36 murders in their lifetime. During World War II, Japan bombed China with fleas infected with the bubonic plague. Heartbreak can trigger a massive flood of emotions that can cause fatal heart attacks. People's general happiness peaks at 21 and does not reach that level again until they retire. People who stay up late at night have more psychopathic tendencies than those who sleep early.
Here's what would happen if you stopped sleeping. In the first 24 hours, you would actually feel great. This is because sleeplessness stimulates the mesolimbic pathway in your brain, causing you to feel happy and full of energy. But soon after reaching the 24-hour mark, your reactions will become slow, your brain will begin to be forgetful, and you will appear drunk to others. After 2 days of not sleeping, your body would begin to shut down. It would not metabolize glucose properly, leaving you with little energy. After 3 days, your eyes would go red, you would look pale, and you would begin to hallucinate, with all your worst nightmares seemingly coming to life. Then after 2 weeks, your immune system would become so weak that you could even die from the common flu. And after 3 weeks, you'd probably die from a heart attack. Comment what's the longest time you've gone without sleep.
So in honor of Mother's Day, here's the one animal that doesn't get to have one, and I mean that in the worst way. This is a sea louse. That's right, just like the ones that violate fish. It all starts with a male snatching up a lady louse and dragging her into his coitus cave. That's what I'm calling it. If I say what it really is, this video won't see the light of day. And inside there can be up to 25 other prisoners just like her. Oh, push and pee, and I mean parasites. That's bad enough, but like the world of Ray Charles, it only gets darker. You see, lice don't multiply the same way we do. They have something called traumatic insemination. Sure is, because it involves the female getting her abdomen stabbed through by the male. Basically a love shank. And after every last captive has been injected, that's when the nightmare really starts. Because now each pregnant louse has hundreds of tiny lice wriggling around her insides. The difference is, when us mothers give birth, with them children take life. The many little lice start feeding on the mother from the inside until eventually her body splits open and a brood of Norman Bateses crawl out of her withered husk of a corpse, spilling out into the sea to continue this really messed up cycle. And if you ever watch Slither, yep, same thing. Matter of fact, this has the Bay written all over it. We have time. So some lice will crawl through a fish's gills, sever the blood vessels in the tongue, wait for it to wither and fall off, and then they become the tongue. Billions of dollars a year for NASA just for the real ET-ish to be right here. The more you know.
Videos that seem innocent but have a terrifying backstory. Part 9.
In 2015, married couple David and Louise Turpin traveled to Las Vegas to renew their wedding vows with an Elvis impersonator. The couple appears to be cheerful, having a very happy family with many children. But 3 years after this video was taken, one of the daughters managed to escape the home and go to the authorities. As it turns out, all 13 children had been locked up in the house, abused, and malnourished. In one of his final live streams, popular Twitch streamer Byron Bernstein, better known by his Twitch name Wreckful, joked about suicide and even mentioned testing out to see if he could survive a fall from his balcony. A month after the stream aired, Byron took his own life by jumping from that very same balcony. In 2014, adventure YouTuber Snakebit McGee uploaded a video entitled MK Pike.
I'm looking for a cave that I found. Something about that cave just spooked me. This one just made my body vibrate.
He has since gone missing and to this day has never been found.
The Absolute Worst Ways People Have Died, Part 7. Octavia Hatcher. In 1889 she was married to James Hatcher, and a couple of years later they had a son together who died shortly after birth. Then she developed depression. She soon fell ill, slipped into a coma and died. But suddenly other people in town were falling ill and going into comas. James wanted to know if his wife died from this illness or depression, so he dug up her grave. Inside he found part of the casket destroyed and had nails on the ground with blood, and she had an expression of pure fear. Octavia Hatcher was buried alive.
This photo shows 14-year-old Ava Wood and her father Christopher, who would later murder his daughter with a 20-gauge shotgun before turning the weapon on himself. Ava was a 9th grade student from Baldwinsville, New York, who was a member of the honor roll and MVP of the girls' soccer team. But on January 20th of this year, Ava's mother called the police asking if they could check up on her daughter because Ava hadn't shown up for school that morning. She explains that Ava was home with her father, who was severely depressed, and that the night before they had spoken on the phone together when he said, "This is how it ends for us." Ava's mother then gives the police officers a key to get into the house, but when they step inside, what they see is devastating. Ava and her father are in 2 separate bedrooms. Both of them have gunshot wounds, and the dad's are self-inflicted. This case is absolutely heartbreaking, and we may never know why Ava's father chose to do this to that poor girl on her birthday.
This teenager accidentally admitted to killing people to the police while he was playing a video game. A gamer known as Elijah was having a normal day while he was playing on Rainbow Six Siege. The game is described as an online tactical shooter video game. Unfortunately for Elijah, he accidentally pocket dialed 911 while talking on his headset. As he told his friends, "I just killed 2 people," the operator mistakenly thought he was admitting to a double homicide. He carried on playing, having no idea that the authorities were listening in. Within minutes, officers swarmed his house. Elijah had heard the dog barking, so he went outside to see what the noise was. He was met with an officer pointing a gun at him and was obviously completely shocked. He immediately started to try and explain, stating, "I was playing the game and I butt dialed the phone, that was my bad." Reluctantly, Elijah had to call his mum, who had no idea what was going on, and she was at work. He had to explain to her why there was loads of police outside the house questioning him.
This is why you should never dye your hair. Tabitha was a 17-year-old girl that would continuously dye her hair all the time. One night, she was hanging out with her best friend who decided they would dye their hair together. Approximately 20 minutes after she put the dye in her hair, she got up and went to the bathroom. She began pulling at her hair, screaming and vomiting before collapsing in agony on her friend's floor. Medics rushed her to the hospital where she unfortunately died due to an allergic reaction from the hair dye.
2 high school students are dead after their friends dared them to jump off a bridge. Ryan Al Nasser and Zachariah Char leapt into a South Carolina lake after friends in their group chat challenged them to do so, but both tragically drowned as a result. According to police, it appeared one of the boys jumped first, then the other jumped in to rescue him when he saw he was in distress. It took officials 2 days to locate the bodies.
A new study suggests that Gen Z are now facing a blindness epidemic. It revealed that nearsightedness has increased a massive 59% in Gen Z. And the United Nations say that by 2030, it's going to affect 40% of the world's population. A top eye surgeon said that the leading cause is that youth are now spending too much time with their electronics too close to their face during a critical time in their life when they should be getting natural sunlight. I'm gonna have to say it. Blind generation before.
So-called British eco-activist has poured a bucket of human excrement over a war memorial dedicated to a World War II veteran who raised over $33 million for charity. The stunt, led by 21-year-old Maddie Budd, carried out for the pressure group End UK Private Jets, showed her dousing the steel war memorial in human urine and feces. The monument honours World War II veteran Captain Sir Tom Moore, who sadly passed away at the age of 100 last year. He raised over £33 million during the COVID lockdown by walking 100 laps of his garden for charity. Hailed as a national hero and honoured with a knighthood by Her late Majesty the Queen, his memorial was disgustingly and appallingly defaced under the pretence of activism. The medical school dropout has since been arrested and charged with suspected criminal damage. Budd tried to justify her actions by saying that every time a private jet takes off, it pours and blood onto everything that Sir Captain Moore stood for. I'm not sure we completely agree with that. Her father, Jim Budd, said she had gone rogue after she dropped out of medical school, becoming a full-time eco-warrior, also adding he felt sick and was ashamed of his daughter and her actions. Many have flocked to Twitter to express their disgust over the protest, saying that Budd has thrown a lot more away than just the contents of that bucket. What do you guys think? Activism can be really progressive, but when it involves vandalising a war memorial, that crosses a firm line.
If I was at the zoo and an animal escaped, I would feel infinitely safer if that animal was a tiger, a bear, or a gorilla, my bad, no ER, don't send me to one, than if it was a bunch of baboons. Baboons are underrated and not in a positive way. This Malice Monkey's proof that animals are as vegetarian as their options, and baboons will pack up literally anything that doesn't expire them first. I knew baboons were one of the ones when I found out they'll rush a gazelle that's just given birth just to eat the baby alive the same way you might eat a chicken wing. Sometimes they'll get bold and break into farms to murk sheep and goats. Matter of fact, baboons are a known predator of vervet monkeys, because Malice Monkeys don't discriminate, anyone can get it. I literally couldn't even show you the picture if I wanted to. You know they're on timing when you find out sometimes they'll run into chimps and bully them. Turn a chimp to a pansy. Hope you had a plan B. See, he thought was sweet. No candy. They live in groups called troops. You run a fade with one, you get smoked by the whole hood. That's a leopard with a life lesson. They'll even give the laugh track of the savannah something to cry about. Nah, but by far, the most nefarious thing they do. So basically, a lot of animals like impala and antelope will use baboons as alarm calls against predators. So if they hear a baboon broadcast, they know to do the dash. Baboons figure this out and were like, the only safe line is a fed line, and fed is exactly how they operate. They will watch lions plot on prey, and not only will they not warn them with the alarm, they'll even get on the ground and stroll around and give the gazelle or whoever a false sense of security. So the antelope gets murked, the lions get fed, and the backdooring baboon gets diplomatic immunity. Yeah, baboons are one of them. Oh, and they carjack people.
Man hasn't pooped in 19 years. But when he finally did, you won't believe what unfolded. 16-year-old Paul was a lively kid, but always faced ridicule at school because he had never pooped in his life. His classmates dubbed him a weirdo. Paul's parents believed he was a blessing from God, a cut above the rest. But he didn't share that sentiment. Paul didn't want to be treated differently. Once he sneaked into the restroom to try and poop. He exerted all his strength, but nothing came out. Eventually, he passed out from straining too hard. Paul grew more and more self-conscious, but at the age of 22, something bizarre happened all of a sudden. Paul's belly began to swell, and it was expanding at a visibly rapid pace every day. His abdomen also started to ache. At this point, he knew he had to see a doctor. The doctor had never seen such a case and immediately arranged various tests for Paul. During the wait, Paul already felt intense agony. The doctor first gave him painkillers, which alleviated it a bit. An hour later, the test results were not promising. Soon after, Paul was rushed into the emergency surgery room. You won't believe what they extracted from his body.
This man cut off men's genitals on a live stream and sold their body parts. Marius Gustavon is a 46-year-old man from Norway. He decided to set up his own company in 2017, providing probably the most shocking and gruesome service I've ever heard. The business gave customers the opportunity to voluntarily have their male reproductive organs cut off. Between 2017 and 2021, the company gained over 22,000 subscribers. Marius ended up making over $300,000. On one particular shocking live stream, Marius got 3 men to cut off his own reproductive organs with a knife. Other live streams involved things such as a male being electrocuted, strapped to a bed, and being branded with initials. Another involved Marius cooking some male genitals and then eating them on camera. Some of the males involved were as young as 16. Marius recently pleaded guilty to crimes including conspiracy to commit GBH, creating and distributing indecent images of a child, and possessing extreme P. He's also been sentenced regarding genital mutilation and selling body parts. He's been given a minimum of 22 years in prison. Another male involved in the business was 67-year-old Peter Waits. He was found to have a box of male genitals when police searched his house. He's been given between 4 and 12 years in prison.
Scarlett Johansson's been left shocked, angered, and in disbelief over ChatGPT's new voice Sky that allegedly sounds just like her.
Hello, I'm here.
So if an AI chatbot sounded eerily like you, could you do anything about it? Let's go back 9 months, when Scarlett says she was approached by OpenAI's CEO, Sam Altman. In a statement, she claims that Sam wanted to use her voice to make people feel comfortable with AI, but she declined. Fast forward to now, and she's discovered Sky, whose voice is so similar that her closest friends couldn't even tell the difference. Scarlett even alleges that it was intentional, because Sam tweeted the single word her, possibly referencing the movie where she voiced an AI assistant. Now, OpenAI has suspended Sky, and it's denied that the company intentionally copied Scarlett, but it's opening up a conversation online about individual rights, deepfakes, and ownership of our own identities. Very much like when Taylor Swift found herself targeted by AI photo-generated controversy. But Scarlett now wants legislation to protect ourselves.
Unless you want your own Twitter hashtag, never do what he did. Trust me, you're gonna want to favorite this video so you never end up in this situation. You, my friend, have just caught death itself! The giant hornet. This hornet will come after you in the morning, and by the evening it will own your house, your family, and even your mortgage. Why am I so concerned by this person's well-being? Well, let's start with the fact that these have photographic memories, and you have caught it in a plastic see-through cup! You have the desire to meet your ancestors. Now, a sting from one of these is about as nasty as it looks, described as hot metal being poured into your body. And not only that, they can spray venom too. They don't just have to sting you. And before anyone thinks, no, this isn't a wasp that had a couple protein shakes, wanna know what these hornets do for fun? They raid beehives, and they completely Thanos everything inside of that nest. They can fly up to 25 miles per hour. He can only run 27. To pray for him in the comments. Yo, Elon!